Hello, friends of Sudoku. Welcome to another hard Sudoku from sudokuexchange.com. Let's dive right in as we usually do. We got a couple of sevens blocking over here and 1 7 blocking down. So here's a 7. This 5 blocks down. This 5 blocks over. So one of these must be a 5 and they block up. This 5 blocks up while this 5 blocks across. So here's a 5 blocking across. This 5 blocks across, this blocks up. So another 5 goes here. So we need another 5 in one of these two squares and in one of these two squares. And then we will have completed the 5s for this grid. But meanwhile, we can look at these two 1s. They block across, and therefore a 1 must go here. This 1 blocks down, this blocks over, this blocks down, and here's another 1. And now we got two 1s blocking up, making a 1 out of this square and also out of this square. That was the last of the 1s for this puzzle. A 9 must, I think, go in one of these two squares because this 9 blocks down here. This 9 blocks down here, and this 9 blocks here. So one of these must be a 9 blocking down here. So we got a ghost 9 blocking here, a real 9 blocking here, another 9 blocking here. So a 9 must go in one of these squares. And since this 9 blocks across, and this 9 blocks down, a ghost 9 blocks down, one of these must be a 9. We need to find a 2 for column 4, the 2 blocks here and the 2 blocks here. So here's a 2. Now we just need a 6 and a 9 for these two squares. The 9 blocks here, so the 6 is forced to go here and the 9 must go here. Only 2 squares missing here now, and they must be a 7 and a 3. Those can't be solved yet. I'm sure we'll get around to them pretty soon. For row 6, we need to find a 3, 6, 7, and a 9. We have a 7, 6, and a 9 all blocking the square, which therefore must be a 3. Now we have a 2 and a 3 blocking across here. We have a 2 and a 3 blocking down here. So these two squares must be a 2 and a 3. And that sometimes makes it easier to find out what is going on in the remaining squares, which always form a 90-degree angle. So a 2 and a 3 here. Let's see if we can do something with that. It appears that we actually can't do much with this. So we'll just keep it as a background information, and maybe something will come up later that will help us figure these 4 squares out. Of course, one of these must be a 6 because the 6 blocks here. I can see that a 2 must go in one of these squares simply because these 2's here block these 2 squares. But unfortunately, that's all I can see right now. Let's look deeper. Well, one consequence of the 2 and the 3 here is that the 8 blocks across here. So one of these is an 8, and therefore one of these must be an 8. We also know that one of these must be an 8. Unfortunately, that doesn't really give me a lot. By the way, the 2 and the 3 here and the 7 also puts a 7 in one of these squares. I think I mentioned that a 9 must go in one of these 2 squares here, didn't I? And even if I didn't, let's look why a 9 must go in one of these 2 squares, because I think it's important because of this square. Let me explain. We got a 9 blocking down here. We got a ghost 9 blocking down here. So a 9 must go in one of these 2 squares. We got a 9 blocking down here. So a 9 must go in one of these 2 squares. So now we need to find a 9 for the bottom 9th row, and that must go either here or here. That means that it can't go here. A 9 also can't go here. A 9 also can't go here. So one of these two squares must be a 9. And now I want to look at this row 6 here. We need to find a 7, 9, and a 6. We know that one of these must be a 9, therefore this cannot be a 9. And we know that it also cannot be a 7, therefore we now know that it must be a 6. So now we got a 7 and a 9 in these two squares. These are still a 2 and a 3, making these a 7, 8, and a 9. So a 9 must go in one of these two squares and in one of these two squares. So 7, 8, and 9 here, that makes these a 6 and a 4, and those I can't place, not yet. I can, however, do something about the 6s, because now this 6 blocks here, and this 6 blocks here, so this square has got to be a 6. And I clearly remember saying that one of these must be a 9. Now we got 6s also blocking down, so we got a 9-6 pair here. And that makes these a 4 and a 3. So we said that these have to be a 4 and a 3. And that leaves only one square up here, and that's got to be an 8. This 8 blocks across, this 8 blocks up, so here comes another 8. And these two squares now must be a 4 and a 7. And across here we need a 4, 7, and one more. And that one more is a 9. And that, of course, must go here because this 9 blocks here, this 9 blocks here. So here's the 9. And I seem to remember that a 9, yes, goes here. We have got a 9 coming down here. And we said that one of these two had to be a 9. Let me remind you, because these 4 squares can be 9s, and we still need a 9 for the bottom row, and the 9 now blocks down, so here is a 9. Where does that leave us with respect to these 3 empty squares? We need to find a 2, 4, and a 3. Well, unfortunately, this is a 4 or a 3, this is a 2 or a 3, and this is a 2 or a 4. So not a lot of joy here. But at least we found ourselves a few digits, didn't we? Let's not forget the 4 and the 7 here. 4 and a 7 here, therefore not a 4 or a 7 here, I think we can safely assume, but let that rest for now. 2, 4, 7, and an 8 blocking across here. We got a 4, 7, and an 8 blocking down, so this has got to be a 2, making this a 2. And now we do know that these squares must be an 8 and a 4. And therefore, this square cannot be a 4, it must be a 7, and this must be a 4, and this must be a 7. And as I said before, this square could not be a 4, and it could not be a 7, and I'm proven right, because this square now is a 7, and the 4 must go up here somewhere. 3, 5, and 6 for this column here. We got a 5 blocking here, and we got a 5 blocking here. So here's a 5. 5 blocks over, 5 blocks over, and a couple of 5 blocks down. So here's a 5. What are these two? If these are 4 and an 8, they must be a 2 and a 3. And these, therefore, a 6 and a 4. 4 blocks up now, so here's the 6 and here's the 4. making this a 4. This 4 blocks across, this blocks down, here's a 4. Oh, let's do this one first. It must be a 3, and therefore a 3 must go here. And that gives us an easy 6 for this square. 6 blocks down, this 6 blocks over, so here's a 6, and that gives me this 6 here. Still a 7, 8, 9 here. We cannot do anything about that yet, but I think that it will be very clear soon. Over here, we are looking for an 8, 9, and a 3. 3 and a 9 block down, so here is an 8. 3 and a 9. We know that one of these is a 9, therefore this cannot be a 9. It must be a 3, and this must be the 9. If you ask me why did we know that one of these must be a 9, well, because this 9 blocks down and this 9 blocks over, so one of these must be a 9. So back to these squares, they must be a 4 and a 2. Therefore, this square has got to be a 9. And this must be a 3. We are getting there now, very slowly, but we are getting there. Here we're looking for a 4, which can't go here, and a 2. Here we are now looking for a 9 and an 8. No joy. And here we're looking for an 8 and a 7. That's better because 7 blocks down, so here's the 8 and here's the 7. Now this cannot be an 8, it must be a 9, and this must be an 8, making this a 9 and this therefore a 7. This 8 blocks up, so an 8 must go here, and here's a 4. Blocking down, here's another 4, and this square must be a 2, blocking up, so here's a 2, and here's a 3. A very nice and entertaining puzzle today from sudokuexchange.com. It was labeled hard. I didn't find it particularly hard though, but quite pleasant. And I hope that you also enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.